Could the clerk call the roll, please?
Councilmember Cormack.
Here.
Councilmember Du Bois.
Here.
Vice Mayor Philseth. Correction, Mayor Philseth.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fine.
Here.
Councilmember Niss. Councilmember Koo.
Here.
Councilmember Tanaka. 7 present.
Okay. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We have basically one item on the agenda, as I think everybody knows. What I'd like to do first is recognize dignitaries in the audience. And so we have with us tonight former Mayor and Council Member Yoriko Kishimoto. Former Mayor Karen Holman. Former Mayor Judy Kleinberg. Former Mayor Pat Burt. From Senator Jerry Hill's office, we have Lisa Chung. From Assemblyman Mark Berman's office, we have Zach Ross. Zach, also want to recognize former Mayor of Cupertino, Gilbert Wong, who is now a trustee of Foothill De Anza College. Thank you for joining us. Have I missed anybody? We also have with us a number of board and commission members. I saw Peter Balte out there. I saw Ed Lowing out there. Could you all folks please stand? Is there anybody here from the school board? Okay. Thank you all very much for joining us and being with us tonight for this. So the next order of business is the election of the mayor and vice mayor for 2020, and the procedure will be as follows. First, I will collect nominations from council members for the position of mayor. Council members may nominate themselves or another council member. No second is required. After collecting the nominations, I'll invite people to speak in the following order. First, council members who've made a nomination may speak to their nomination. Second, the council member who was in fact nominated may speak. After that, any other council member may speak. And after that, members of the public may speak. Then we will have a vote. Once there is a new mayor, the new mayor will then conduct the election of the 2020 vice mayor in the same way. Okay? So, the floor is now open for nominations for mayor. Council members may nominate themselves or another council member, and no second is required. And I have a light from Council Member Tanaka.
Yes, I'd like to make the nomination of Adrian Fine as mayor.
Councilmember Tanaka nominates Adrian Fine. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, Councilmember Tanaka, would you care to speak to your nomination?
Yes, it'd be my pleasure. So I've had the fortunate luck of being able to work with Adrian for the past 6 years, almost 6 years, I guess now. 2 years on the Planning Commission. When I was chair of the Planning Commission, he was my vice chair and then became chair. So I've got to see his leadership on the Planning Commission. He did a superb job. He had really great grasp of the issues, and he also knows how to facilitate meetings and making sure that things actually happen. So, I also saw him on the rail committee, so he led that because a lot of people were recused because of recused, but not really have to be recused. So I've seen his leadership skills and his ability to facilitate the meetings. I think that he'll serve council well in this role. And I think the other part that's really unique of Adrian is he's actually born, educated, and raised here in Palo Alto. There aren't too many Palo Alto natives, and so this is something that to me is a fortunate luck that we have someone that knows the city so well from birth, right? I think the other aspect is, a lot of the city residents are actually renters, but very few renters are actually represented here on council. So I think that's also going to provide a really good, unique perspective. The other thing I really think that Adrian does well that will serve the city is, Palo Alto is kind of known as the heart of Silicon Valley, where a lot of innovations have come out, like Facebook and HP and a bunch of other companies. And he has a strong tech background as well, right? I think he works at an autonomous driving company now. He's worked at Nextdoor, so he really has a good grasp of the technologies out there. So I think from leadership to his skill set to I think he has a degree in, was it geography? Geography and like urban studies. So he really knows all different aspects of issues, and I think that's something that's going to serve the city well. I'm really hoping that he will be willing to accept the nomination and step up to being mayor. So thank you.
Thank you. Would you care to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Tanaka. Those are really kind and gracious words. I will accept the nomination. It's been really an honor to serve with you over these past 6 years, and I look forward to serving and working with you and everyone else over the next year.
Would any other council members like to speak? Councilmember Koo.
Thank you. So throughout these holidays, I've given it plenty of thought about this election here with mayor and for the vice mayor. And I was reminded of a time when Vice Mayor Greg Schmidt was passed for mayor. It was a very upsetting time, and I remember that, and it was pretty upsetting for me. And I really believe that council members who serve, who runs for council and gets elected, I think every one of us should have the opportunity of at one point becoming vice mayor and then mayor. And with that said, I will support, I will support the mayorship of Mayor Fine. At the same time, I do have to say, I do have huge concerns about some of the things that Vice Mayor Fine had endorsed and supported, especially the bill SB 50, which is returning and will be determined by the Senate Appropriations Committee. And it's a governance that is one size fits all, and it's top down. And a member of the public had said that any amendments that's going to be made to it will be lipstick on a pig. If it walks like a pig, and if it grunts and squeals and snorts as a pig,
Lydia.
it's a pig, but it's with lipstick. So
Stay on topic here.
okay. So thank you for reminding me. One of the things I want to remind that Thomas Jefferson put it best when he said, the government closest to the people serves the people best. And as an immigrant, I can never understand why a government of the people, by the people, for the people would abdicate its local controls of our governance. However, I am not going to get in the way of this nomination, and I do wish upcoming Mayor Fine the best, and I will hope that there will be fairness throughout this year to the entire council.
Thank you. Councilmember Niss.
So, thank you. I think still Mayor Felseth, am I correct? For another few minutes? So, when we ran together, Adrian and I, and also Greg Tanaka, you have a chance to see each other very clearly. And I feel that Adrian, Vice Mayor, conducted himself very well during that period of time. We went through a number of questions together. We literally ran together. And throughout it, Adrian was always kind, polite, very thoughtful, and especially known for his critical thinking. So I will support him with enthusiasm.
Thank you. Councilmember Cormack.
Thank you, Mayor Filseth, and I will be supporting the nomination of Vice Mayor Adrian Fine to be mayor. I've found that he speaks his mind when warranted. He's adept at incorporating others' thoughts as we work together here on Monday nights, and he knows when it's appropriate to graciously cede, and I appreciate all of those qualities.
Thank you. Would any member of the public like to speak to the nomination of Vice Mayor Fine? Seeing none, would you vote on the board, please? And that passes 6-0-1 with Councilmember Koo abstaining. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mayor Fine. Thank you. I'm afraid I'm parked in your parking space.
You can keep it tonight. Well, thank you, everyone. I have just a couple short comments and then want to move on with the meeting, but mostly want to thank my colleagues in the community at Broad for supporting me as mayor for 2020. As someone who's born and raised here, this means a lot to me, and I will do my absolute best on behalf of Palo Alto, the whole community, and this council. I really love this place. Many thanks to my wife and to my family, my family and my wife, Jane. You guys are there tonight, and I appreciate that. You're always there for me. And also many thanks to Mayor Filseth. I think you did a great job knitting this council and community together on a string of tough issues. I certainly learned a lot working with you over the past year, and we'll look to you for guidance over the next year. So, come on, come on, guys. So looking forward to 2020, there are three focus areas that really come into the fore for me: housing, transportation, and what I'll call economic vitality. Housing and transportation are clearly linked, and I heard a transportation planner recently joke that their job is to clean up the mess left by the land use planners. And so I hope in Palo Alto over the next year and in the future, we can do a superior job of planning for our housing and transportation challenges. We have a comprehensive plan goal of nearly 300 units per year, and we've been averaging about 50 or 60 per year. In my opinion, that's not good enough. But the goal doesn't really illustrate what that purpose is about. It's not, housing units and developments. It's new neighbors and new homes. And so I think we may want to reframe how we think about that. Whether that's seniors who need supportive communities, Stanford students who want to put down roots here, young families who want to send their kids to our great schools, we need to figure out what Palo Alto looks like in 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years. And I think that's a challenge for all of us. On transportation, we have some long simmering issues and one big challenge. Everybody is ticked off about traffic on Embarcadero, and they have been for a long time. Our RPPs and downtown parking remain a challenge. Commuter traffic from our jobs housing imbalance, bike and pedestrian improvements, which may be good, may be bad. Your neighborhood may love them or hate them. And I hope we can bring a 21st century attitude and thinking to some of these problems. And then there's one big urgent challenge in transportation, which is grade separations, or as my colleague, Councilmember Cormack likes to say, the train crossings. There are a few options for the city of Palo Alto to address them. None of them are perfect, but I'm committed to finding a solution this year. Better communications are in the works, and I would encourage everyone who's listening or watching or here tonight to please get engaged at connectingpaloalto.com. There's a lot of great information, and you can give your feedback and try to help understand what the problem is and what our solutions are. Finally, with a recession on the horizon, long-time shops closing, and some businesses leaving town, I'm worried about our economic and fiscal strength. Vacancies are rising. You can see it when you walk down University and Cal Ave. We have challenges with grocery stores, a potential business tax coming. On many fronts, neighboring cities are moving forward, and I think we need to make more of an effort to treat businesses in Stanford like part of this community. But finally, and on top of all that, this council has the responsibility to keep this city running safely, efficiently, fairly, and effectively for all the residents of this community. From police to public works, libraries to utilities, there are over 1,000 city employees who keep us safe, pick up our trash, pave our roads, answer our calls. And so on that note, I'll quit speaking, and I'd like to invite everybody to please applaud all the men and women of this city who do so much to keep our city wonderful. Thank you all very much. At this point, the floor is now open for nominations for the position of Vice Mayor. And we have 2 speakers. So I think we will go through the same process. We'll have nominations, acceptances of those nominations, and then public speakers. So I see 2 lights. Councilmember Tanaka.
No, I did.
Okay. Councilmember Niss.
I'd like to place in nomination Allison Cormack for vice mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Niss has nominated Councilmember Cormack. I also see a light from Councilmember, our former mayor, Philseth.
I'd like to nominate Tom Du Bois.
Thank you, Councilmember Philseth, who has just nominated Tom Du Bois. We'll go in that order if the 2 of you would like to accept or anything else. Councilmember Cormack.
Yes, I accept.
Thank you. Councilmember Cormack accepts her nomination. And Councilmember Du Bois. You're speaking.
I accept.
Thank you so much.
Do you want us to speak?
Public speakers, right?
No, now we speak.
Let's actually have Liz, you speak to your nomination. Thank you.
Nomination. So it's interesting because I'm going to start out tonight by mentioning that Allison was the high vote getter last year in the election. And it's interesting because Karen's sitting out here, and I remember nominating Karen when she had just been the high vote getter in that election. So getting the most votes is maybe not the most important, but it feels good, and I think it certainly indicates to our community the value of somebody who has run. Councilmember Cormack came to us from private business. She worked at Google. She joined the Finance Committee and attacked that with great zeal. She's good with numbers, and she was very good at interpreting them and helping us through that process. It was an interesting year. She is a person who pays attention to detail. She has been very effective with us on the council, and I think she notices what we're doing and notices that very well. She keeps office hours. How many of you know that she keeps office hours? And she keeps them at Ada's Cafe, one of my favorite cafes. And people come and people chat with her on a frequent basis. Commendable to do that, because that takes a morning every week of sitting and waiting for people to come, people frequently who aren't particularly going to be nice to you. They have a bone to pick. So opening yourself like that, I think, is very important. Lastly, and maybe the best part, is Allison has a dog. And you might say, why is that important? Because everybody loves to talk to somebody with a dog. So you know that. They'll stop you. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for you to be in interaction with your neighborhood or wherever else you may go with your dog, and have that as your opener to what's going on in your neighborhood. So, and in addition to that, the council member has also been very attentive to her neighborhood, which includes Ross Road. So with that, I place her in nomination.
Thank you, Councilmember Niss. Councilmember Philseth.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to nominate Tom Du Bois for vice mayor. This will be his 6th year on council. He's consistently thoughtful and a voice for reason and data-driven thinking, and for carefully looking at all sides of a difficult question. In his years on council, Tom has built a wealth of experience in council work that would serve him well as vice mayor. His experience on all 5 council committees, and has chaired 4 of them: Policy and Services, Finance, City School, and Rail. He knows how the city works. Like all of us, he's also served as council liaison to commission and working groups. One of the things you have to do in that role is strike a balance between representing council and kind of inadvertently leading the group's outcome, because when you're from the council, elected council, people sort of weight that into what you say, and that can kind of be a delicate straddle. And Tom has learned to do it very well. And it's also an important skill when you're mayor or vice mayor, because you're going into a role where you're really trying, where it's your job to really help the group overall be as effective as it can. I know Tom to be a smart, mature, and sensible individual who's extremely knowledgeable on fiber, rail, water, and of course this year the Stanford GOP. He's been an advocate for regional recycled water, for renter protections, safe parking for RVs, Wilton Court, Buena Vista, the affordable housing overlay, the Palmer Fix, for increased funding for affordable housing, and he also attends his regional meetings. Nobody agrees on everything. Like any group, there are some ideological alignments on council and also some non-alignments. And in my view, that's a good thing, because that diversity of thinking is also present in the community. I believe the combination of Adrian and Tom would be the best reflection of the alignments and differences within the larger Palo Alto community that we all serve. And I believe both the council and the community will be better served and effective because of that reflection. And thus I nominate Tom Du Bois for Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Filseth. We'll go to Councilmember Cormack, then Councilmember Du Bois, and then members of the public, if you'd like to say any words.
Thank you, Councilmember Niss, for nominating me. I consider it a real honor, and really all I have to say is that I hope my colleagues have observed my positive and professional approach this year to making decisions on behalf of our city. I do make an effort to listen to all the voices in the community. Some of them are here and some of them are elsewhere. And again, I thank you for the honor of the nomination.
Yeah, I too just want to say that I'm honored to be nominated, and thank you, Eric, for those kind words. I have been on nearly every council committee and chaired many of them. I'm particularly proud of the recycled water plant contract, which just got completed at the end of last year, which is going to bring $70 to $80 million to Palo Alto over the life of that agreement. I've learned a lot in my 6 years on council. I think I definitely have evolved, and if I'm selected tonight, I promise I'll reach out to everybody on council, work with everybody, continue to do my homework before every meeting, and really work to support Adrian in his year as mayor. I watched Eric and Adrian a lot this last year, and I think leadership that does reflect the diverse viewpoint of the community worked particularly well. And so I hope my colleagues will consider that, but in any case, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Would any other council members up here like to speak?
Is it possible to listen to the public first?
We can listen to the public first, and then if you have final comments, that's fine. Okay. We have 5 members of the public. You'll each have 3 minutes. The first up is Becky Sanders, to be followed by Elaine Meyer. Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, my name is Becky Saunders from Ventura neighborhood, and congratulations, Mayor Fine. That's excellent. So I live in Ventura, as I said. Tom Du Bois would be an excellent choice for vice mayor this year. I said this year. Allison Cormack will be a great choice in the future. Allison is a relative newcomer to the council, whereas Tom has a wealth of experience. I wrote that same phrase that Eric did on the council, and Tom has served as chair of like all the committees or on all the committees. He has shown, in my estimation, tact, wisdom, leadership throughout his tenure of public service. In Ventura, we have found Tom particularly responsive when we were struggling with the sanitation and safety concerns at Bulwer Park caused by a dozen or so vehicle dwellers and transients. Tom actually reached out to us and took a walking tour of the neighborhood and took our concerns back to council for resolution. So we know that Tom is super effective. Also, Tom gets the residential point of view, which frankly is the council's constituency. However, in my years of watching and attending council meetings, Tom balances neighborhood concerns with other considerations and is a big picture thinker and strategist. I have not agreed with everything Tom has done or said. Finally, Tom is excellent under pressure, as well as professional and effective. He's one of those people who keeps his cool when those around him are losing it at like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully, we're not going to do that anymore. But he can do it, and he can go the distance. He will be an excellent partner for our next mayor, Filseth. I think they will be an amazing dynamic duo. Please award Tom the more experienced and, in my humble opinion, ready to be vice mayor this honor this evening, with all due respect to Ms. Cormack, who will be an amazing vice mayor in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Elaine Meyer, to be followed by Terry Holtzmer. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Fine and members of the council. I think we can do a great service to the city and to the council itself by electing Tom Du Bois as vice mayor. Tom is experienced. His history has been laid out very well by Mr. Filseth. He's knowledgeable about city processes, and he's civil and intelligent. He has served on a number of council committees, including Policy and Services, Finance, and the Rail Committee, and others. Most important, I believe he best represents the views of the residents of our city. Please vote for Tom Du Bois. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Holtzmer, to be followed by Joe Hirsch. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, council members, and congratulations, Mayor Fine. I would like to say tonight's a very difficult decision because, of course, you have two excellent candidates for vice mayor. Alison Cormack has served the city well, but I do believe that Tom Du Bois, who also has served the city well for over 5 years, deserves this position as vice mayor. Tom has worked tirelessly to work for the betterment of our community. He's an extremely good fit, considering that he works very hard to find common ground when issues are very divisive and when there's a fracture on the council. I've seen Tom work at many meetings to find solutions to problems, even when there is opposition for them. I think Tom would make an excellent chairman, excellent vice mayor. And he has served on these other committees, as you well know, Policy and Services, Finance, and the Rail Separation Committees, which are extremely important, and his knowledge would be valuable in serving as a leader in this city. So I encourage you to support the nomination of Tom Du Bois. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe Hirsch, and our last speaker will be Suzanne Keene.
Thank you very much. My first request is maybe you ought to switch signs. Move your names around a bit. There you go. Now we know who you are. Congratulations on your election as mayor, Mayor Fine. I was, however, moved very much by former Mayor Phil Seth's comments about Tom Du Bois, who I think would be an excellent vice mayor. The part that impressed me was that it would really, that duo, Mayor Fine, Vice Mayor Du Bois, would reflect the entire constituency you have in this city. No disrespect to Councilmember Cormack. I think she will in time make a wonderful vice mayor and mayor, but I think after the many years of service that Councilmember Du Bois has, he has shown the leadership and the capability to be an excellent vice mayor, and I urge you to support his candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Suzanne Keene.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor. Everybody has said all the different things that Tom has done and all his experience, which has been a lot. The most important thing to me is that the council does reflect both parts of the city, and that that residents, I think this last year with Mayor Filseth and you, Adrian, worked out really well. And I would like to see that continue with Mayor Fine and Tom Du Bois. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more speakers on this item? Thank you. We'll now return to council. Please hit your lights if you would like to speak to any of these nominations. Councilmember Koo.
So, as I said earlier, I believe every council member should have an opportunity of becoming vice mayor or mayor. And the job and position does involve a lot of thought, research, tough decisions. And it's a way to learn and to represent. And in representing, I think that there needs to be consideration and to be mindful of all neighborhoods here in the city, not just one particular street that is traffic logged, but every single street. And throughout the years, and Councilmember Du Bois, so while, with all due respect, Councilmember Cormack may have gotten the highest number of votes in this last election. However, at the same time, I feel Councilmember Du Bois has represented the city fairly, considerately, mindfully, and have remembered the soul of the city for the last 6 years. And I feel that if we're going to be fair and look at who has the highest votes or who has served the longest, I think that we should be looking at the people that has served and deserve the position at this time. And as some of the members of the public did say, that there is opportunity for Councilmember Cormack to be vice mayor and mayor in the upcoming years. With Councilmember Du Bois many years on council, I feel that Councilmember Du Bois should be given that position or appointed that position. And I would hope that the position for Councilmember Cormack to be vice mayor would be withdrawn.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Just a quick question for the city clerk. The instructions here tell me to ask for paper ballots, or should we just do it on the board?
You can just do it on the board if you
All right.
desire.
We'll just do it on the board. So the way we're going to do this is go with the first nomination that was made, and then we will all vote on the second nomination, and let's see what happens. So first up, we have Councilmember Cormack nominated for vice mayor. If you would please vote on the board. And that nomination fails with 3 supporting, 3 opposed, and 1 abstaining. Councilmember Tanaka abstaining, Koo, Du Bois, and Filseth opposed. Thank you. Let's go to the next nomination. This is for the nomination of Councilmember Du Bois as vice mayor. And, sorry, that nomination passes on a 4, 2, and 1 abstention. So I have Councilmember Cormack in support, Councilmember Du Bois in support, Councilmember Filseth, and Councilmember Koo in support. Is that correct? Sorry, I'm trying to read the board since it's moved.
You want to show hands?
Yeah, so Councilmember Du Bois has been selected as vice mayor. Let me just read the votes quickly and confirm it for the record. So we have Councilmember Tanaka abstaining, Councilmember Koo and Councilmember Filseth voting in support, myself and Councilmember Nis voting against, Councilmember Du Bois and Cormack voting for, correct? Excellent. Congratulations, Vice Mayor Du Bois. I look forward to serving with you. If there's anything you'd like to say.
I honestly prepared no comments because I didn't think I was going to be elected tonight. Thank you, Councilmember Cormack. And Councilmember Cormack and I have worked together on several ad hoc committees, and I've enjoyed that opportunity to work with her. I would like to say that'll be our last split vote of the year, but I'm sure it won't. That was a very unusual vote. But as I said earlier, I'll do my best to represent the city and to work with everybody on council and to support Adrian in his year as mayor. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Du Bois. We'll now move on to the third order of business for tonight, adoption of a resolution of the Council of the City of Palo Alto expressing appreciation for outstanding public service to Eric Filseth as our 2019 mayor. If you do have comments, please get them into the clerk. I'm going to read the resolution, then we'll go to comments, and then we'll present the plaque here to Eric. So this is a resolution expressing appreciation and gratitude to Eric Filseth as the 2019 mayor of the City of Palo Alto. Whereas Eric Filseth served as mayor of the City of Palo Alto from January 7th, 2019 through January 6th, 2020, and whereas during his time as mayor, Eric served as the chair of the Council-appointed Officers Committee, and whereas Eric provided effective regional and citywide leadership on issues facing the City of Palo Alto, focusing on the city's land use and environmental policies through regional groups, as well as improved outreach to businesses and neighborhoods. And whereas Eric coordinated work with city staff and represented the city on countless occasions throughout the year, including the Manzanita Forums and ribbon-cutting ceremonies for both the HP Solar Array and Baylands Boardwalk renovation. And whereas Eric encouraged citizen input to city governance in a variety of formats throughout the year, spent time with community leaders and citizens to understand their positions and include such views in council deliberations, including tenant protections, vaping sales, and small cell transmitters. And whereas with the city prioritizing sustainability in 2019, Eric has been a leader in the advancement of Palo Alto's environmental sustainability through support of the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan, renewable energy and zero waste plans, including actions to reduce use of natural gas and disposable plastics, and the decommissioning of Palo Alto's waste incinerator, the city's single largest source of greenhouse gases. And whereas Eric was a champion for the public-private partnership between the city and Pets in Need to operate the city's animal shelter, ensuring that Palo Altans will have a safe and effective pet shelter in their community, and only a few more whereases. Whereas with Eric's passion for finance, he led efforts to structurally improve the city's budgeting process to better account for and fund its pension liabilities now and in the future. And whereas Eric advocated and worked with the entire city council to purchase a parcel of land in the Ventura neighborhood, which will be dedicated as an expansion of Bulware Park. And whereas during his tenure as mayor, Eric successfully led the city of Palo Alto during a landmark year that included many important accomplishments, such as groundbreaking on the California Avenue Garage and Public Safety Building, expanding parking relief to Old Palo Alto, and new multi-year contracts with most city bargaining groups. And whereas 2019 was the 125th anniversary of Palo Alto's incorporation, and Eric led public celebrations to mark the occasion, and whereas as mayor, Eric chaired efficient and productive meetings, allowing everyone an equal opportunity to participate while encouraging timely action, and his service on the council exemplified his integrity, passion, and commitment towards the betterment of Palo Alto. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Palo Alto hereby commends the outstanding public service of Eric Filseth and gratefully records both its appreciation and the appreciation of the citizens of this community for his meritorious service and commitment during his term as mayor. So I'm going to go to members of the public. We have two speakers, Lisa Chung and Bob Moss. You'll each have 3 minutes, and then we'll return to council. If you do have cards that you'd like to get in to say a couple nice words about our former mayor, please do so now. Lisa Chung, welcome.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Mayor Fine, on your election. I come bearing greetings from Senator Hill, who of course cannot be here tonight because you always have your reorganization meetings in January. But he wishes to thank you very much for your public service. This city council, of course, is one of the hardest working city councils, I think, in Senate District 13 and probably in California. You wear us out, those of us who come to your meetings, and I know that it takes a great deal of dedication. For this period of time, when the mayor is one who has to work the hardest, I think, because of riding herd on the many different viewpoints and trying to drive people towards a solution that comes weekly for all the decisions that you must take over a period of time, over weeks, over months, and sometimes just that evening. So with great appreciation, Senator Hill wishes you a new beginning in 2020 as the former mayor and to get a little bit of rest, even though you are on the city council, continuing. So thank you very much.
Mr. Bob Moss, to be followed by Winter Dellenbach.
Thank you, and congratulations, Mayor Fine and Vice Mayor Du Bois. I've been attending these council meetings for many, many, many decades, and I've seen a lot of mayors operate and function. And normally, when a mayor retires, I don't comment, but I thought that Eric had done an excellent job. He's one of the better mayors I've seen work on the council. He was very effective in keeping the meetings moving. And times when either the council members or members of the public kind of got off topic or kept on talking, he would very politely move things forward. So it was very efficient, and he made the council meetings run very effectively and promptly. Back in the good old days, before we had mayors who really could run meetings, it was quite common for a council meeting to last until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And the latest I was at a council meeting that I can recall, the meeting didn't adjourn until 3:30 in the morning. And I remember everybody was just kind of, oh, but they kept on talking. So the meetings I thought have been very effective, and I thought that past Mayor Phil Seth did a good job of running them and was very effective in the way he made the city more efficient and the council and the community more efficient. So thank you very much for your service. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Winter Dellenbach, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Eric, you did one thing I really liked. You did some stuff I really didn't like, but here's something I really liked. I love that you had that nerdy flip chart at your kickoff, and that start talking about the fact that business wasn't doing its fair share. Corporations weren't doing its fair share in terms of taxes, and that residents were doing more than their fair share, and our city was doing more than its fair share to finance needed services and housing and all this sort of stuff that we all depend on. And you weren't the only one talking about this, but you really highlighted it as a big part of your campaign. And then you rolled into the State of the City address, and you had all the slides, and you went on and on and on. And you just made a big deal about it, and you helped raise the consciousness. You weren't the only person, but you really, as a mayor, you made a big deal about it. And now, over the next certain amount of time, we don't know how long, we're going to be rolling into, I hope, a very strong, sensible, reasonable business tax. And we're going to start righting this ship and make it more reasonable and fair and sensible about fair share. And you have something to do with that, and I just want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for that. Eric, job well done.
Terry Holtzmer, and our final speaker will be former Mayor Karen Holman.
I'd just like to take a moment to thank Mayor Filseth for his hard work and dedication this past year. It's a very difficult job to be mayor, but you've done it with fairness, you've done it with an excellent knowledge of the city, and you've worked extremely hard on issues which are extremely difficult. Your State of the City address last March, I think it was, I forget where it was excellent, and a tribute to the knowledge and appreciation that you have, not only for Palo Alto, but for the whole West Bay communities around us. I appreciate it a great deal, and I thank you greatly for your leadership. Thank you.
And former Mayor Karen Holman, welcome.
Good evening. And first of all, thank you, Mayor Filseth, for your service. I, as someone who, I guess you get addicted to this, as many of you know, I oftentimes watch council member meetings or parts of council meetings. I never had any doubt that you had done your homework. I never had any doubt that you were prepared or not for how to conduct a meeting. You were always there. You were always ready. You were always able. And that's a lot. It's a lot of the job of the mayor. It's very important to keep the business of the city going forward. So I thank you for that very much. I'm going to digress here just for a second. Congratulations, Vice Mayor Du Bois. And I say congratulations also to you, Councilmember Cormack. What happened tonight is magnanimous, almost unheard of, and speaks well to both of your characters. And it should not go without recognition. So congratulations and congratulations. And as some of the members of the public said, you will make a fantastic vice mayor and mayor in the future. And I look forward to the kind of collaboration we saw tonight on the future council. Mayor Fine, congratulations to you as well. And also to you, I know you will be prepared to conduct the meetings in a gracious and even-handed manner as your predecessor has. And just one word here is the speaker timer, just so you know, the speaker timer has been frozen at 3 minutes, and the public will love you for it.
I hear you. Thank you, former Mayor Holman. We now return to council. The floor is open for any motions. And I see a light from Councilmember Koo. Or is...
If I may, I want to start first by saying thank you very much to Councilmember Cormack for your graciousness. Thank you. And then to Mayor Filseth, former Mayor Filseth, I want to say thank you. I've appreciated that you have, to the best of your ability, to give 2 minutes for the public to speak. Having stood behind the podium myself in the past as a public speaker, I can say it is deflating to have spent time to write and ensure it is a 3-minute speech, only to find out last minute time has been reduced to 1 minute. At least 2 minutes is more respective of the public who has something to say and to bring to our attention. I've also appreciated your thoughtfulness in your appointments to the different regional committees and at-home liaison positions. I've learned a lot from all of those positions, and I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in your appointments. I know I may speak a lot sometimes, and I appreciate your patience. Lastly, but not least, I appreciate the nights that we were able to conclude our meetings before 11 p.m. So thank you, Mayor Filseth.
Councilmember Du Bois, Vice Mayor Du Bois, apologies.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to adopt the resolution. Great. And then I'll keep it short, but I just want to say congratulations, Eric. I think you could be proud of your year as mayor. And I'm looking forward to this year where I can hear your opinion much sooner in the evening rather than waiting to the very end. But thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to speak very quickly, but if anybody else would like to, please hit your lights. So, Eric, it has been a real pleasure serving with you over the past year. Just for everyone out there, I think an important thing to remember is this past year is when we shrunk from 9 to 7 council members. And I think Eric did a really excellent job of handling that transition here on the council and working with city staff. You were graceful in handling the meetings, absolutely fair. When we had disagreements, sometimes they were large disagreements, we would move on quickly, and I think that's a feather in your cap. You also brought a lot of passion to certain issues, whether it's the environment or our pet shelter, and I think that's truly admirable. You fairly distributed the work among council members and judiciously used ad hocs or meetings with our boards and commissions to better understand what was going on in this community. And you had a focus on accountability. Finally, the last thing I think I've personally learned from you is a certain executive presence that you bring, but also a graciousness and with a hint of comedy that I think really has enlivened some of our meetings and helped the city do its business and the important work we do here most Monday nights. So happy to support this. Thank you so much for your service to Palo Alto.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Councilmember Tanaka.
Yeah, I just also want to thank you for your service as mayor. You know, I think I had a pleasure of serving you before on the finance committee, so appreciate your work here. Thought you did a lot of good work, and you know, I think the city's move forward. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. Would you please vote on the motion on the board? And what do you know? It passes 7-0. Congratulations. I have to let you speak too. There you go. Congrats. I wrote this for you too.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think we should let former Mayor Filseth say some words.
How much time you all got? Well, So first of all, thank you all for those kind words, and I want to thank everyone here for the honor of having been able to serve as your mayor this year. It has been a rare privilege, and I'm grateful. And I also want to thank my wife, Tina, who's in the front row here, for putting up with all this nonsense for all this time. When you come to the end of any assignment, there are always things that you look back on and say, boy, I'm really proud of these things that we got done, and other things where you say, I really wish we'd finished that, in this time. Some of the things that I'm most proud of us for bringing in this year have been the community things. I'm delighted we were able to buy the AT&T acre to expand Boulware Park, which represents one of the most underserved areas in town. I'm really pleased we saved and reopened the animal shelter. A healthy city takes care of its animals. And yeah, I'm glad we banned plastic straws, okay? We don't need them, okay? And yet, the nature of government is that most of the really important things we do are not this year or that year things. They are things with impacts that will only be felt over many years, and indeed take many years often to put in place to begin with. And so these things are not so much achievements as processes. And so not usually the domain of any one mayor, and often enough any one council. So I want to mention a couple of those. One of the things that I'm most proud of this council and city has been the systematic approach we have taken to addressing our long-term unfunded liabilities. This year, the city took the next step of this journey in translating the principle that we should use realistic investment returns into actual operating budgets. That is not an easy thing for cities to do, okay? And its impact will only be felt over decades. It is the epitome of 2 marshmallows versus 1 marshmallow kind of stuff, and governments tend not to be good at that. So I'm immensely proud of us for not wavering in the discipline and resolution to do that, because it's fundamentally important. I'm proud of our city's long-term commitment to reducing our carbon footprint and preserving our environment. I'm delighted we turned off the waste incinerator this year. Okay? It served us well for decades, but its time had come. Now, I'm tickled pink that the big red button got to be in my term as mayor, but it's really about a lot of work by a lot of people over many years. Right? We have a lot of other stuff in progress that we'll continue to keep working on. Grade separation, transportation. We have no shortage of things on our to-do list. But I do want to say a word about housing, which remains arguably the Bay Area's seminal challenge today. Now, we promised the community as part of the comp plan 300 housing units per year through the year 2030. And despite the housing work plan that we passed a year ago, we have not hit that. Okay? So I expect that in 2020, I'm certain of it with Mayor Fine, we'll be revisiting that work plan. Okay? We made a commitment, and a commitment is a commitment. However, this community did another thing a few years ago that is relevant, right, which is the office caps. And let me be clear, okay? The office caps are not a housing solution, okay? They have no bearing on our comp plan commitment of 300 housing units per year, which we must keep. But they, and to some extent the ADU ordinance, have done something which we should not completely forget. And that is, they have essentially balanced our jobs and housing growth. Yes, the numbers are tiny. Yes, we did it by limiting jobs, mostly not building housing. But balance is balance. And the reason that's important is that if any community or region continues to add jobs radically faster than it provides housing, then the results are, we all know the results, right? Okay? At the extreme, it puts people in tents. And yet, most of the Bay Area continues to do this at full speed. Now, most of the Bay Area wants job growth and the revenue and things that come with it. And we say, well, if we only did this, or we only did that, then housing would surely keep up and we could have it both ways. Well, maybe so, or maybe not. But the function of what we have done here in Palo Alto, net, is essentially to sacrifice job growth until we can figure out how to get enough housing in place to support it, which is essentially what the county required of Stanford. Okay. Essentially, what we're talking about is a prioritization that, if forced to choose between a few more jobs and displacing more people, if forced to make that choice, we'll choose the people. Okay? Our performance against our comp plan housing production targets is not a success, certainly not yet. But I am immensely proud of our community for the choice. We have work ahead. It's good to have work to do. Thank you very much for allowing me to be your mayor this past year, and to all of us a successful and a happy new year.
Thank you, Councilmember Filseth. Really appreciate your thoughts. We'll now move on to the final item of the night, which is oral communications, where any member of the public may speak to an item that's not agendized, although tonight I figure people will still probably speak to some things that are agendized. So far, we have 6 members of the public who wish to speak. You'll each have 3 minutes. Mark Scholl will be first. Welcome.
Thank you, and congratulations. As you know, San Jose Airport is in the process of modifying its master plan in order to build a new concourse and many new gates with the goal of accommodating 50% more passengers. The deadline for comments on the draft EIR is the 14th of this month. It's the holiday shot clock. I call this to your attention for several reasons. First, hopefully Palo Alto has already objected. Second, San Jose South Flow at 2,000 feet is already an extreme noise, health, and safety issue. We can't afford more flights, and if San Jose adds additional gates, South Flow will get much worse. Third, given federal legislation, it's impossible for airports to turn flights away. The only control left is not to build ground facilities in the first place. Adding more gates at San Jose is the last thing we should be doing. Fourth, San Mateo County has always used control over permits and variances for SFO expansions to require the airport to include offsetting mitigations directly in SFO's master plan and EIRs, where according to their San Mateo County city attorneys, they're enforceable by the county. And these include the very creation of the SFO roundtable. That's how it started. And later, the requirement that it include all cities in the county regardless of impact. $220,000 per year in direct operating support, extremely expensive monitoring and reporting for all roundtable cities that request it, dedicated noise staff, as well as significant and costly technical support for roundtable work programs, and the requirement that SFO propose and promote roundtable work program initiatives to the FAA, which, by the way, is the only official route for local initiatives, according to the current FAA regulations. Again, these are not aspirational. They're written into SFO's master plan. And San Mateo forced the airport to put them there by trading them for permits and variances, mostly during major airport expansions. How air traffic is shaped locally is not a mystery. What is a mystery to me is why we're allowing San Jose to build more facilities to enable more traffic without gaining anything from them, including a real San Jose Airport roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be David Cole, to be followed by Rebecca Ward.
Good evening. My name's David Cole. Dear Mayor, former Mayor, City Council members, I would like to thank you for your actions supporting environmental and sustainability issues in Palo Alto this past year. Paraphrasing the great article in the Weekly, the first action you did was to make climate change a top priority for the city last year. That was a great way to start the year, and I'm hoping that you will do so again this year. Next, you banned plastics and straws, plastic bags and straws, and then put in place the requirement for deconstruction of buildings instead of demolition. This saves tons of reusable material from the landfill. One of the biggest items was the updating of the building codes to have all new homes be electric. While this affects only a small amount of the housing stock in Palo Alto, since it's only for new homes, it's a very important first step for getting fossil fuels out of our homes. It's cost-effective, and it reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Finally, a big win for top 3 priorities last year, and one that was missed by the weekly, was the decision not to build the downtown garage. This can be a hard decision when a project has been in the pipeline for such a long time, but it was the right decision. The effort to reduce the need for parking by the TMA is 10 times more cost-effective than building the garage. It reduces congestion and greenhouse gases as well. So this is a big triple win for climate change, transportation, and fiscal sustainability. And I want to thank you all for that hard decision. I look forward to working with all of you in the coming year. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Mayor Fine.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Rebecca Ward, to be followed by Suzanne Keene. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. I am also speaking on airplane noise. While you folks were on break, members of Congress wrote a letter to the FAA administrator, and I thought it was important to point out what they actually had to say, because I've listened to you folks debate the aircraft noise and concentration of jet traffic, and I do believe that there is some lacking of understanding of what the impact is to the community. And since our members of Congress hear from people across the country, I thought you should too. So first of all, they said they were writing on behalf of hundreds of thousands of Americans who continue to suffer the effects of the FAA's Next Gen program. It's serious, and people in Palo Alto are also exposed to that. They go on to say, since its introduction of the Metroplexes, the FAA has concentrated flight paths over neighborhood schools. The heavy traffic produces constant noise, and I think you should listen to this, and particulate matter that has yet to be deemed safe by the FAA or any other government agency. I've talked about that, so have other people. And we've also heard from our employees of the JLS school that actually is impacting the children and the ability to hear them. But it also has, as they note, a devastating impact on residents' quality of life. And that's true. Any of us who live under those rails, it's horrible. It's a plane every minute to 2 minutes, and you folks need to take it seriously and start doing something more substantive. And lastly, they close with this, but I think it's important for you to hear it, because this is true. And there's no debate about whether there's a problem or not. There is a problem. It's what we're going to do about it. And they close by saying, the burden of noise, health risks, and declining property values falls on the back of hard-working Americans, and that includes people in this community. So you decided 6 months ago not to litigate when we had the opportunity with the Pirate 2. You never released the vote on that. I asked you, as did other people, ask you to please at least vote on whether you should release the vote. And the reason that's important is because we all vote. Councilmember Niss mentioned that Councilmember Cormack got the highest number of votes. Well, in order for us to take those votes, we actually need to know what you folks did. And there's no legitimate reason not to release those votes, because there's no settlement talks. You're not even talking to the FAA. So I think in the spirit of transparency, it's an election year, that it's time for you to at least take a vote, and also to recognize that the steps you've taken have not been adequate. And if you look back, and this is my last thing that I will say, but I did find it, back in 1998, you were talking about jet noise. There was actually a special council meeting on that, and nothing has been done. And actually, you chose regional solutions then, and you've chosen regional solutions now, and it hasn't worked. So you really need to come up with another plan. Thank you very much, and again, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Suzanne Keene, to be followed by Tony Petulin.
Yes, I saw an article, I think it was in the Weekly, one of the papers, by Jackie Spear, that she is putting up several different laws to Congress about this. But it is an election year, so how much value that will have, we don't know. But I live in Barron Park on Orm Street, right next to Juana Baroni School, and I have planes, sometimes so low, I think they're gonna land on my roof. And the noise is ridiculous. Plus, I know enough to know that we're being polluted by all those planes, and I wear earplugs and sometimes earphones to sleep at night. and I don't think it's fair. There's got to be a different way. Maybe they go up the bay, or I think they used to go up, by the ocean, but it's really not fair to have, and like somebody said, sometimes it's every 2 minutes. I hear one go by that's really loud, and then I can hear right away another one coming. And so I really hope something will be done about this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Tony Petulin, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Not here? Okay, our last speaker will be Joe Hirsch. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Fine. Thank you, Vice Mayor Du Bois. I am hopeful that with the two of you collaborating in the next year, all the opinions and viewpoints of all the residents and citizens of Palo Alto will be fully voiced and debated here in these council chambers. Between the two of you, you do represent both sides, the pro-development, the moderate growth people. And if these viewpoints can be honestly expressed and debated here, I think it will be a good year for Palo Alto. I have two favors to ask. One, please conclude your negotiations with the school district about the Cumberland site. I understand they don't want to develop it for, I think, valid reasons. School-age population is declining. But you have a lot of tenants there who are waiting to hear what will happen to them. We need to be there at the not-for-profit rental rates that exist in this community. Most of us could not exist. I know my organization, Cardiac Therapy, could not exist in the for-profit rental market. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary here in Palo Alto this year, and we would be out of business in virtually no time at all if we did not have the benefit of a rental at Cumberland. So please conclude that, let the benefits of that extended master lease flow down to your tenants, and as we all desire. The last favor I'm asking, and I'll quote from your agenda, Council reserves the right to limit the duration of oral communications period to 30 minutes. I would like to ask you, Mayor Fine, and if Vice Mayor Du Bois, if you happen to be chairing a meeting, if there are 10 or fewer people talking, let us all have 3 minutes. It goes by awfully fast, no matter how you prepare and time it yourself before you get to council chambers. It's very fast, and we have things to say. We are your constituents. Please hear from us and let us know that you really care what we have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. You had another 45 seconds or so. Before we adjourn, we have, if you want, okay. Before we adjourn, we have two last quick things. So one, there will be a reception outside. We would be honored if you join us. The city staff has prepared this, so it's just outside in the outside of the chambers. And lastly, I forgot, Eric, we have to present this to you and get some photos. Did we do that? Up front, not up front. Vice Mayor Du Bois, would you join me? Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.